Adan Rios was born in the town of Panama City in the Republic of Panama. Adan had two siblings, a brother and a sister. Adan's parents worked very hard for their children, his father as a banana cutter for the United Fruit Company, then later with his wife running a small convenience store where Adan would also work.
We came to live in Panama City in a very poor area, but he developed sort of 7-Eleven is the best equivalent that I can find. And despite the whole work, the deposit where we used to put all the groceries and things that we used to sell had a library. And I still remember seeing books about Plato and Socrates. And during the day, as we were working, we would always find time to go back to the deposit and just skim the pages of the books. But even that little exercise, something will stick. I was able to attend the most sophisticated school in the city, and you just can't imagine the sacrifice they had to do for us to do that. It was a baccalaureate, pretty much in the model of the European baccalaureate, so you will get a degree in humanities, science, and philosophy. And after that, I was able to go to the University of Panama and attend the medical school, and my life changed.
At the university, Adan found medicine a natural fit for a young, gregarious student. After graduation, in order to be licensed as a Panamanian physician, he was required to do a year of public service in rural Panama.
I will never regret that year. It broadened my horizons in ways that were very special. I got to leave to see my roots because, we left the interior when we were very young, and then go back to see where my parents have grown, what kind of life do they have, and develop empathy for those who are in most need.
But getting a job in Panama after his year in the interior was thwarted by a change in local politics. Suddenly, his name was on a list of "do not hire," but his luck changed when he met a friend who was working in the U.S. Canal Zone.
I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I am a phlebotomist in the Canal Zone." And I said, "Wow, how much do they pay you?" He said, "They pay me $400 a month." That was the salary of a physician in Panama. And he was just a phlebotomist. So I walked into the Canal Zone, and it turned out that they have one slot for a resident, and there were two places in the world where you could get trained and recognized in the mainland United States. One was the American Hospital in Paris, and the other one was Gorgas Hospital in the Canal Zone. So in a flash, my life changed. I was given a house in the Canal Zone because the residents live in the Canal Zone with air conditioning. $67 a month.
After completing his residency at Gorgas Hospital, Dr. Rios decided that the next step was to find work in America. With the help of Dr. Evan Hirsch at Gorgas, he was able to get a 3-year fellowship at MD Anderson in Houston and a year as a project investigator. But Panama continued to beckon, and he returned at the request of the Panamanian government to set up a cancer center. After a year and a half, however, little progress had been made, and Dr. Rios returned to the Canal Zone, the U.S. Department of Defense, oncology, and a surprising assignment.
One day, the head of cardiology came and told me that a friend of the ambassador of the United States was ill, and that they needed me to be on time the next days. And they started asking me questions about what I will do with a patient with these specific conditions. And as a result of that, I ended up commissioned to take care of the Shah of Iran when he went to Panama in exile.
In 1980, Dr. Rios returned to the U.S. and MD Anderson to continue his oncology work. Coming in the middle of an academic year, the medical center was initially unsure of where they might find a program to place him. But there was one initiative that was just being organized.
Dr. Farag told me, he said, there's this group of patients that is now showing up with these malignancies and immunodeficiencies, and why don't you work with them for the rest of the year, and then next year we'll organize your academic program. And that was the beginnings of my work on AIDS in 1982. A work that has been the proverbial road less traveled.
Dr. Rios' work was instrumental in setting up the first U.S. AIDS hospital and has, in recent years, been closing in on an AIDS cure based on viruses.
I got to see a disease from when we didn't know what it was, to learn that it was caused by a virus, when we didn't have any treatment, to have 1 drug, 2 drugs, 3 drugs, and now too many drugs. And it's kind of exhilarating to have been a witness to that arch.
Philanthropy also became a force in his life after being introduced by Panamanian boxer Roberto Duran to George Foreman and his wife Mary during Foreman's 1987 comeback.
He's a giver, a natural giver. And when you're around people like that, you feel like you want to give too, because you see their joy and you go like, I want to feel that way. His wife, Joan, very quietly, Joan really opened the first prevention HIV program in the Caribbean.
Today, Dr. Rios continues his AIDS research and is a frequent visitor to Panama, where he works to strengthen cooperative programs between Panamanian medical institutions and the University of Texas Medical School.
I really hope that it will grow and it will foster, because it's the best diplomacy that we can do, healthcare and education. I look at myself now and I see myself as a child in Panama, going around with my mother working, having the slightest idea that I will ever be in this country, then going through all this process, and today myself engaged in the development of a potential vaccine for HIV. It's just amazing what this country can offer and do. I had the great privilege to share this award with Mary Beth, my wife, and with my children. This is the person who had always told me, even when the craziest of ideas come, she just paused and she said, do you really want to do that? I said, I think so. Her answer has always been, then do it. That's freedom.